You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a sibling, you will be liable to judgment. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 22, Jesus has these words to say on murder. It's a point that he talks about a lot, and it basically boils down to sins are of the heart. Sins are not actions, they are intentions. Though, I suppose sins can be actions too. But yeah. But it's because of the attitude behind the action. Like, thoughts are sins, and actions are sins. Anyway. This is a really interesting thing, especially when we apply it to a little bit of philosophy. So there's this term that people use a lot, which is simulation. And we all know what that is. A simulation is a projected reality. What's interesting is where you get to a simulacra, which is where you don't know if what you're experiencing is a simulation or your actual reality. For example, all of this could just be a simulation. I have no way to actually prove that my bed exists, my laptop exists, or even my body exists. The only thing I can prove exists are my thoughts, and I can't even prove if they're mine or not. So as far as I'm concerned, the world is a simulacra, something I cannot tell if it's a simulation or real. There may be better examples. I can't think of any at this present time. But let's put a pause on this conversation. Let's jump to something else. We're going to talk about Undertale. I may have talked about Undertale on this channel before. I'm probably going to talk about Undertale on this channel again. It's very important to me. It is the most important game in terms of storytelling and just the ethics of video games. While Pokemon Go revolutionized gaming from a technical standpoint, Undertale revolutionized gaming from a moral standpoint. I am about as much of a gamer as you would expect, which is to say not at all. But I'm passionate about Undertale. There's not a lot I can say about Undertale without spoiling it. But I will say this, Undertale makes you question things, and it led me on a philosophy track along with my good friend, whom I got to play, or whom I watched play, I don't know. It was fun. And we started asking questions about how do we know that video games are just a simulation, and how can we prove that in some weird way, obviously not in the same dimensions, but in some weird way, how can we prove that they don't exist? So as far as we know, all video games are simulacras too. You can't prove that they're purely simulation. That's just not something we're capable of. Sure, you program a game and you can deprogram a game, if that's what it's called. But how do you know that it doesn't still exist somewhere? Especially with, the internet being as fast as it is and whatever. But then I thought about this passage, and I wondered, does it matter if video games like Undertale, or Call of Duty, or Duke Nukem, whatever, or Pokemon Go, any video game, if it exists or not, does that matter? Does whether it's a simulation or a reality really matter? Even if we had some way of proving video games don't exist, what do they tell us about our hearts? Jesus says that sin is of the heart, and it's of the mind, and it's of the thought. And in a video game, you are presented with options, usually, to kill. And even if these are just pixels, and these pixels are meaningless and don't have any inherent representation, you are still thinking, on some level, I'm going to kill this I'm going to take this being, even if it's just in-game, I'm going to take this being and obliterate their existence from this point forward. And once I started thinking about that, that's terrifying. How do you wrap your head around that? Like, is it acceptable just because we know they don't exist, or just because we don't know they exist? Doesn't matter. Still a sin. What does it teach us, anyway, about other humans, or about life forms, whatever? Can I play Mario and crush Goombas and not feel bad about it ethically? Like, is this acceptable? And maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe. I tend to do that a lot. But these are questions I think are worth answering. And so I called this video game Conscience. But what I really should have called it is probably why I'm never going to play a video game that I can't win by not killing a single character ever for the rest of my life. Because I don't want to take that chance. Now, some of you are going to be like, okay, Azaria, what about other forms of media? You still watch YouTube, you still watch people play it, you still read books. I bet you're gonna reread The Hunger Games soon. Probably not. I don't have time anymore for things like that. But you got me there. Except that those are passive experiences. Sure, they're active in as much as I'm, like, engaging, especially with reading, I'm imagining. But the violence these works commit has already been committed, so I may as well benefit from the tragedy. Like, when it comes to playthroughs, and, I don't know, as an theoretical author, I think there's a difference between writing about characters killing each other and conceptualizing, okay, this one's going to kill this one, and sitting down and playing a game and being like, okay, I'm going to kill this one. Like I said, I'm probably overthinking it. That's okay. But, if you're new around here, that's what I do. I overanalyze everything. So, does Jesus want you to play video games? Don't think Jesus really cares. He wants you to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, though. So maybe He doesn't want us playing violent video games. And does that include Kirby games? Maybe. Maybe. Also, am I the only one upset by the fact that poinsettias are turned red by being deprived of light for 14 hours? I know they're like plants, but that still seems like unnecessary cruelty, so maybe I just have an empathy disorder. And yet I still have the capacity to kill. So, if you haven't seen that video, you should check that out. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. And aren't as stressed about school as I am. And if you're not in school, you lucky duck. Unless you're not lucky. Anyway, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great day. Bonus information for anybody who's still here. Not this week, but next week I'm going to be on a fall retreat, so that's cool. Don't know how videos are going to go. Anyway, we'll see. Have a great day.